Well, the same week the White House says it's handing out pink slips and furloughs because of budget cuts, it's handing out another $250 million in aid to the Muslim Brotherhood government in Egypt. Now, this is a move that has Senator Marco Rubio, for one, enraged, saying, quote, "We don't provide foreign assistance solely out of the goodness of our heart. We do so because it furthers our national interests." Now, is Senator Rubio right? How can we be spending more money on Egypt at a time like this? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Mr. Steve Forbes, Rick Ungar, Elizabeth MacDonald, Bill Baldwin, John Tamny, and Sabrina Schaeffer. So, Steve, does this make any sense?
No, it doesn't, David. It's a complete waste of money. But this may be a plot to undermine the Muslim Brotherhood because Kerry said in return for that $250 million, we want you to cut a deal with the IMF. And the IMF, as we know, the International Monetary Fund, with its high taxes, getting rid of subsidies when the economy's in a free fall, and devaluing the currency is a huge way of just making the government totally unpopular. Otherwise, it's a huge waste of money. We shouldn't do it.
Rick, just on the face of it, at a time when the White House is complaining that it has to give out furloughs and cut White House tours and everything, spending $250 million on a government that's run by the Muslim Brotherhood, does that make sense?
Actually, I love Steve's theory. I have to rethink everything I'm going to say now. That's so cool. Listen, there's a couple. You have to be a little bit careful here. For starters, keep in mind that the Consolidated Foreign Aid Act was passed in 2012. Actually puts strings on this money. We can't give money to Egypt unless they agree to continue their peace treaty with Israel. So in a sense, there's some good news in the fact that we are giving the money. There must be some assurances. Other things that are really important. We get special access to the Suez Canal, critically important. We get flyover rights. You have to be careful here. There's more to this than meets the eye. I don't think Kerry would be doing it if he didn't know what he was doing.
But, EMAC, priorities. Again, if we're furloughing American workers at the same time that we're giving money to a government that claims, anyway, that they hate us. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. It's about nearly $72 billion since 1948. And what do we get for it? We have a government run over by jihadists. We have basically they're rolling out the red carpet for Iran. I say cut the military aid. They've got a lot of ballistic missiles and chemical weapons, and they have basically an army a military twice the size of Israel. I don't like that. I'm worried about Israel there. So I say keep the food aid, keep the economic development aid, and cut back the military aid. I want to see more democratic reforms in Egypt.
John, are you for this or against it?
I'm against it, but let's not give it back to federal workers here. Let's cut federal spending in the U.S. and also cut off Egypt. The Founding Fathers were very clear that we maintain friendly relations with all nations, but allied by none. It's hard to conceive how this enhances our national security thousands of miles away.
And, Bill, some people call these things bribes, some of these foreign aid programs. Doesn't it amount to that?
I'm in favor of bribes. I think Liz is too much of a softie. I'd cut off all the aid. This is what we've done over the past half century. We've given billions of dollars, almost $1 trillion cumulatively, to nations that are run by corrupt, violent regimes. And
hold on a second. You say that's a good thing?
No, what I'm saying is that we've been giving away this money thinking that the money would wash away the violence and the corruption. It does not wash it away. It irrigates it. I'd cut off Egypt. I'd cut off Pakistan. I'd cut off Zimbabwe. I'd give all the money Zimbabwe's getting to Botswana.
So, Sabrina, a plague on all your houses. Bill would cut it all.
I know. I don't think we need to do that, but I think that the $250 million we have to realize is simply symbolic. It's to show that we're behind the Morsi government because it was democratically elected. But the real problem is that $250 million isn't going to do anything to sort of set the Egypt ship right. So I think if we really want to get behind Egypt and we want to work with the IMF and the World Bank, then that's one thing. But I think we have to acknowledge that what they really need is close to $5 billion. That's what financial analysts have suggested. So I think that this $250 million might as well just be returned to the U.S. people.
And if you imagine what they do with the $5 billion, by the way. But back again, you get to priorities, not only in foreign policy, but we heard, I know you got people that suffered in the Sandy hurricane. They're going to be cutting that by $2.5 billion, according to some Democratic senators now, while we're giving more money. Priorities seem all screwed up inside the Beltway.
And it runs counter to what the kooky theories in the government now that, you spend money to make money. No, we're spending money to lose money with doing what we're doing with Egypt. You'd think that they would stick to their theory, bring it back to the U.S. But, you know, I'm still waiting to hear from Rick Ungar if he's going to pick up on my deal. That is, I get to punch him every day in the nose, and he pays me $100 for doing it. And you see his nose looking really nice there.
I'd actually let you do it. I mean, you can do it, nobody else.
Sabrina, you wanted to get back in. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think that this administration seems to have sort of a lack of strategy when it comes to their foreign policy, which appears to be, you know, a theme here of the week. So lack of strategy here at home, how we're doing cuts, a lack of strategy abroad. I think that if we really want to get behind Egypt, and I do think we have interests with Egypt in the Middle East in terms of women's rights and minority rights and Israel, I think there's a reason to have this relationship, but I don't think this $250 million is going to do squat.
I do think there's a strategy here, which is that spending more money fixes things. No matter whether it does or not, Steve. That's the thinking. I mean, the windmills aren't giving you the power. Spend more money. Another $12 billion. Egypt's not behaving. Give them more money. Maybe they will.
Yeah, whether it's $250 million or $5 billion, it's an absolute waste of money unless they restructure that economy. I'd give them the $250 million, Dave, if they brought in supply-siders like Art Laffer, who would cut their tax system, have sound spending, and let the economy grow. Free the entrepreneurs in Egypt. How about that?
Bill?
Yay.
I want to qualify my remark about liking bribes. It kind of sounds corrupt. Yes, I think we should bribe nations to be democratic, to give citizens rights, to make sure that women have rights, and tell them, you know, if you don't play ball, you don't get the money.
John, I rarely have problems with Steve Forbes and what he has to say, but in this case, you know, he's saying, well, if you spend it on the right things, they're never going to spend it on the right things, are they?
No. They're never going to spend it on the right things. And let's also remember that the founders were as skeptical of unrestrained democracy as they were of monarchy. The idea that we should be paying them off because they elected people who actually dislike us, I don't see what we're getting from this. The good foreign policy program that's ever existed is free trade. Let's open our markets to them and then walk away.
Rick, go ahead.
I love what John had to say about the founding fathers and non-alliance. John, will you acknowledge the ship has sailed on that? We had these little things called World War I, World War II. Do you really want to live in a world without foreign alliances?
John?
Yes, I do, precisely because of our involvement in some of these wars that didn't enhance our national security.
Sabrina, go ahead. Quiet, guys.
Yeah, I do think we have to be careful not to lump all sort of Islamist states together. I mean, the Muslim Brotherhood is bad, but the Salalis that are waiting in the wings would be worse. So I think that there are purposes for us, you know, siding with some of these groups.
Yeah, it may be a good point, but Steve, it's so complex. Do we really want to get in the middle of that crazy system they have over there?
No, David, and that's why we got to get the IMF out of this. Once you have an economy that grows again, you develop a middle class that will have zero tolerance for that kind of extremism.
All right, it's got to be the last word from Steve. Coming up next,